There we go. Sorry about that. So everybody, welcome to the Municipality of Thames Centre regular meeting, October 3rd, 2022 at 1 p.m. Before we start this meeting, I'm just going to do our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land in which we gather is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Lenape peoples who've had long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames First Nation, and Munsee Delaware Nation. This building is on land within the area of Treaties 21 and 29 and the London Township Treaty 6. We value the significant contributions, both in the past and the present, of local and regional First Nations of Turtle Island. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous people endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 1:01, and we do have an addition to the agenda, I believe, Tina?
Yes, item 7.9 regarding the petition for sanitary sewer project, Oakwood Drive, Oakwood Place, Hamilton Road was added yesterday.
To the consent agenda.
That's correct.
Okay. And now I'm going to ask for a disclosure of any pecuniary interest. So looking, council, any conflict of interest? No? Chris? Seeing none. Okay. And announcements. And under announcements, I would just like to remind everybody today is not only coming up as Thanksgiving, but also the Dorchester Fair. So we will see a parade, but also returning favorites such as the Demolition Derby, but with new attractions on Monday, which is wrestling that will start at 1. And remember that turkey dinners are served all weekend. So if you don't want to make a turkey dinner at home, you can go to the fair and have a full dinner there. Now moving on to Committee of Adjustment. So I need a motion that council adjourn its regular meeting in order to convene as a Committee of Adjustment. Moved, Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? Okay. So 5.1, a minor variance application, A922, Payline Farms Incorporated is the applicant, and the address being 24063 Heritage Road. And Mr. Bancroft, this is your report.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the applicant has filed this application for relief from the zoning bylaw to recognize an existing accessory building, which is located in the front yard, which is otherwise not permitted. And just for background, the subject property, it's a 20-hectare farm located on the west side of Heritage Road and south of Highway 7. The property contains a single detached dwelling along with a number of farm and accessory buildings. And these lands are designated under the official plan for agricultural purposes and also zoned for the same purpose. Council may recall that we had application for consent B24-21, which was granted by council on November 22nd, 2021, subject to conditions. And to satisfy one of the conditions of consent, the applicant has applied for this minor variance approval. I've undertaken my evaluation, Your Worship, as noted under section 3 of my report. I'm satisfied that the evaluation criteria has been met. In terms of comments received during the circulation, in terms of agencies as well as to members of the public, there were no issues identified in the circulation of the application. So it is my recommendation, Your Worship, that the application be approved as submitted based on the reasons outlined in my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, council, regarding this? Okay. Do we have somebody from the public, Alan?
Not online, Your Worship.
Okay. So we're good, Tina? Okay. All right. So then we have a decision to make. So looking for a mover. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. All in favor? So moved. So now I'm going to ask that the Committee of Adjustment adjourn and council reconvene its regular meeting at 1:05. Mover, Councillor Hunter, seconded by, I almost thought it was you, Jarrett, making the motion. I'm not used to everybody being here. Deputy Mayor Elliott, and all in favor? So moved. Now we have a delegation, and this would be Kathy Hastings regarding the lower speed limit on Farrer Road. And you can just come up to the front here, Kathy, whenever you're ready. Yep. Whatever you're more comfortable doing. Yep.
If that's okay.
And just while Kathy's getting organized, just want to say this is the second time that we've been able to have people back in for a long time. We've had dribs and drabs, but it's really nice to see the gallery full.
Oh, good.
And it's actually the first time we've had all of staff back in the room all together too. So
Lovely.
it's really nice to be almost back to normal again.
Lovely.
Yeah. So whenever you're ready, Kathy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm Kathy Hastings. I'm here with my husband, Mark, who's also the owner of Rover's Retreat. And my neighbor, Larissa Moncrief, who would be here with her son, Jack, but he took a nap early. So, and Diana Williamson, also from Ferrara Road. And we're also here in spirit by our other neighbors on that road, as we're all interested in this situation. So we understand what the bylaw is, that if it's not a posted road, it is an 80-kilometer road. We were all very surprised to see this, mind you, when it was finally posted, because we've been on posted for some 30 years. But as the residents of Ferrara Road, we are requesting that the speed limit be posted and reduced to 60 kilometers or lower. On that road. We are a narrow, unpaved road with no shoulder, just a ditch on either side. And what we've seen in this small residential settlement where we live and work and play on this road, we've experienced an increase of traffic and speed over the years with construction and traffic redirection as a shortcut to those folks who work on Donnybrook, although not lately because of the construction, but also a rise in the incivility of drivers on that road. They speed up purposely, trying to either spray you with gravel or make you hit the ditch while you're walking a dog or walking your stroller or whatever. The incivility is on the rise. We've experienced some close calls while walking and jogging and cycling and just leaving our driveways. We've been sprayed with gravel by vehicles driving too fast that pay no mind to us walking. I've even experienced someone who sped up when I asked for him to slow down. But a recent close call with our youngest, Master Jack, was really a scary reason that brought us here. So imagine, if you will, you're tending to your garden, you're hearing these lovely sounds of this lovely young couple playing with their little boy in the front yard. Dump trucks are barreling up and down the road, and all of a sudden you hear the truck barreling and you hear these young parents screaming for their son. Now they've got a really long driveway, but the speeds in which they were traveling, there would be no way for them to see or hear or stop for this young boy. Now we're lucky that Kelly Elliott, our deputy mayor, was online and able to, in real time, get a message to the crew to slow those trucks down. And they did indeed slow down, but it was a big scare for us and a reason for us to bring it to the attention of council. They did post a radar with a speed limit of 80 kilometers an hour, which shocked even the OPP that it was posted at that rate. But we understand the bylaw as if it is not posted, it is 80 kilometers. So as shocking as that was, we understand it's a legacy, but that's why we're here for change. We would like that change. It's not dependent on the number of cars. It's not dependent on when they stop construction. It really doesn't matter. It could be one car, it could be 5 cars, it doesn't matter. It impedes no one's, it harms no one to lower that speed limit on that road, but it does protect the residents, small as we may be, who live and work and play on that road. And we struggle really to understand why we have to have this conversation, because on that dirt road, none of us who live there would ever travel at 80 kilometers an hour. So the farmers don't, nobody does, other than people that are using this road as a pass through. So we see the need for change, and we hope you do as well.
Thank you, Kathy. That was a good presentation. And I know that it is a bit concerning when you realize that your road is 80 kilometers an hour, but it is standard. Like even my road, a gravel road with with big hills
Yeah,
is 80 kilometers. And that's always a bit surprising when you're out for a walk and somebody goes by you at 80 kilometers on a gravel
Right.
road, because you do get that
right.
spray. So I have that we received this petition. Is there any comments maybe from Public Works regarding next steps?
Thanks, your worship. Hi, Kathy. I
Hi.
spoke with Kathy on the phone
Yes.
there a few weeks back.
Yes.
Just mentioned, kind of updated her that the county will be open at Donnybrook Drive. As Kathy mentioned, it's not one car, it's, 50 wouldn't matter. Donnybrook Drive will be open to the public mid-October. The only thing I have to add too is the council endorsed a road needs study in 2015 that evaluated all the roads in the municipality. One of the criteria were speed limits. They went through geometrics, meaning driveways, hills, road widths, everything that, and Fair Road wasn't recommended as a speed reduction.
Oh,
That's all I
perfect.
can add with that.
Yeah.
It was not recommended.
Oh,
So-
okay,
so-
sorry. I misread that. Yeah,
Well,
not
yeah.
good. Yeah.
It was not recommended. That's the only thing I have to add to my report here.
And I think, I'm just going to add, Jared, if you don't mind. I know that historically, some of the roads have been 90, some of them been 80 on county roads. And each year, twice a year, the county looks at those speeds and sees if it's appropriate or not. And I think what's happened a lot of times is those roads don't necessarily reflect what's happening in the community. So, a road that's been 80 kilometers for 20 years isn't recognizing growth on the outside or different things like that. So that's something that moving forward, I know that you have a road study that, is it coming in the fall or is it completed?
Fruition. The last road needs study was was done just last year. It wasn't as intensive as the 2015. We'll probably be going back out to update this needs study probably next year. They recommend it every 5 years or so. It'll probably be on the agenda, the operating agenda next year.
And then I know that you have been working with Fair Road, and I know I did have somebody from Fair Road contact me, and I contacted our county engineer, and he went down and talked to the works people and made sure that they weren't speeding and doing different things, because it's a big concern. And I know what happens sometimes when we have a concern is that we put a counter out to see how much that is happening, and maybe that's something that after the construction is completed, we can put a counter out and see how much it's affected.
Yeah, Kathy, we can not post it's got 80K on the sign. We can change those speed limits to 50, 80, whatever. We'll just blank that out. And we'll blank the speeds out too. So we have an accurate representation. We'll collect all that data. So
Mhm,
that'll be, car counts and average speed limits, whatnot too.
mhm.
I like to do that, kind of before and after the Donnybrook construction is done, just so we can get an updated traffic count on a Fair Road.
Okay. All right. Diana?
I wanted to know why Harris was down to 60. And it's a paved road with a shoulder. And we don't know. That's one road over from us.
What?
Reason for why?
I'm not the public works director, but I can say it's nothing personal. It is usually because there's been something similar where a traffic count's been done and there's been a need there and it's been proven. So I think this is what Jared is starting you on the path of. And we'll get some concrete evidence to that. It's nothing, as I said, it's nothing personal. It's just probably somebody on Harris
Tell you
Road.
when you're on the road.
It feels personal. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I know. And I've experienced it too. So I know exactly what you mean. And I'm sure Carrie's horses aren't appreciating it either.
No.
No.
No, we walk dogs and horses and babies on the road. It's doesn't feel safe at the moment.
Yeah. So is there anything else you wanted to add to that delegation?
When we were looking at that sign. And we walked out and actually looked at that temporary sign that was put up. And it said 70.
And we told
Somebody had
Jared,
changed
yeah.
the number from 80 to 70.
Mhm.
And we just kept thinking, why is it breaking it arbitrarily just change it from one number to another? And I noticed there's thumb screws on it, so you could actually take it off and put whatever number you want. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we do that sign does a world tour. It's on Donnybrook Drive. It's in town. It's all on different roads with different speed limits posted. So we put that we changed that sign to the posted speed limit. So to let drivers know. And then we changed the computer programming inside to flash whatever speed limit it is if you're over. So it was on it was on Dorchester Road last week. I think it's in Harrisfield this week here. So that's for that reason.
Okay, so if that concludes it, that your answer is Jared's going to be looking into that,
Okay,
and this is a good start. So.
okay. And you'll stay in touch with us, let us know, because we will be back here next year. Okay.
Well, hopefully it won't be next year.
Yeah, well, we'll be back.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, now moving on to 3 recommendations. Oh, Councillor Patterson, did you have a question?
I did, yes. You can hear me? Okay.
We can hear you just fine.
Yeah, what determines whether it's 80, 90, 60, 50? Like who decides that?
I'm going to pass that on to Jared.
Thank you, Worship. That's a highway traffic manual, Councillor Patterson. Anything wants to be changed, it'd have to be bylawed in each municipality.
So thank you, Mayor Work. Why don't we just make it 60? I mean, that would make sense to me if the community on that road are concerned for their safety. I mean, the community, we've already had changes to other highway, like in our roads to 50. So it would make sense just to make a decision right now and just make it 60 instead of 80.
Did you want to speak to that?
No.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Elliott, go ahead.
Through your worship, my only concern with arbitrarily changing it to 60 kilometers an hour is what conformity do we have? So every time residents come with a speed complaint, which is probably the number one complaint we get on every road, how do we set some sort of conformity on what a speed limit is? And for example, I'll use, Purple Hill Road, which is a gravel road from Plummer Mills Road to Dundas Street. If we have residents in certain sections wanting a different speed limit, like that's just where my concern lies in arbitrarily changing speed limits, is where is the conformity across the municipality, whereas the recommendation is for staff to collect traffic volumes and the speed data. At least then we're making decisions based on data in front of us versus just arbitrary decisions.
Councillor Patterson?
Well, I know arbitrarily, Deputy Mayor just made a motion or got passed to change the speed limit in all subdivisions, and in particular on Dorchester Road from the boardwalk to Byron Ave to 50 kilometers an hour. And I don't think there was any data to support that other than that's what people wanted. So for me, it's if the people on for our road want lower speed limit, I think we should support that and make it 60. That seems reasonable to me.
Okay, did you want to speak to that, Deputy Mayor?
Sure, through your worship, I didn't bring a motion to arbitrarily change that. I brought a motion to make a recommendation to Middlesex County to change county roads and settlements so they were a consistent uniform speed limit and not one speed limit in one settlement and one speed limit in another settlement. I brought that to bring consistency, and that was a recommendation to county council, which made the motion, just to clarify.
Yep. Councillor Patterson?
Yes, I'd make the motion that council directs staff to change the speed limit on Farrar Road to 60 kilometers an hour.
Seconder for that motion, Councillor Heeman? Any discussion? Councillor Heeman?
I completely respect the comments about not making arbitrary decisions. And I think that's important to set a precedent for for a standard for addressing public complaints and concerns. But I think at the beginning of the term of council, we increased the speed limit. I think the circumstances are surrounding that it was Rebecca Road from a 50 to a 70. I think the circumstances surrounding that were about the common sense of it and that we had numerous community concerns. So I think that we do have as council the ability to exercise our own judgment and have a number of criteria for doing that. And I think this meets those criteria. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? I'm going to hand the chair over to Deputy Mayor Elliott, and I'm just going to make a comment. I live on a gravel road. I know it's 80 and I'm very careful when I'm out there, and most people are considerate. And I think, looking at your road, it's been under a lot of pressure from people trying to find alternate routes. And I think, Kathy, it probably will end up being, but I'd rather do it with numbers and figures that we can use and go from there. And I won't support changing it here. I would support it as it comes back to me after the report that Jared has basically said he's going to do, and with the help that he's going to be working with. So I can't support changing it just here. Or else we have no, then why do we have staff coming back and doing reports for us and things like that if we do that? So I get it. I totally get it, but I wouldn't recommend doing it here. So Councillor Hunter.
I would agree with Mayor Warwick. I think we need the hard facts in front of us before we make these decisions. Otherwise, we're going to be inundated with these types of complaints coming to us. And I think each one needs to be looked at on an individual basis. And the best way to do that is with the facts and figures in front of us.
And I haven't relinquished my position yet, but as, county council, when we look at the county roads, because that's confusing to everyone, which are township roads, which are county roads, but we go through that process twice a year. And we go all through the county and do it all together to be able to change the roads consistently and make sure, for example, that the speed limit to Harrietsville is consistent with the speed limit to Mossley and so on for all the little hamlets, because everybody, for whatever reason, sometimes it gets changed like this and then it's not always correct. And, it is standard that all of our secondary roads like that and the concessions are 80 unless we go through this process and change it. So I'm going to ask if there's any more comments. Yep, I'm just going to take the chair back first. Okay, and now Councillor Patterson, go ahead.
Well, Mayor Work, you and I both know, and all of council know, that the numbers are never going to show that it should be reduced to 60. That's just the way it is. But this is about safety, and this is about the people that live on Farrar Road. So I support what they want, and that's the way I'm voting.
I know it's very simple as that, and it isn't as simple as that. And I understand, and I know our public works are prepared to work with you. This does not mean that your speed limit's going to stay 80. It does not mean it's going to get changed today, or it could. It just depends on the wishes of council here, because then it becomes a political decision, and really our decisions need to be based on your input, but also the fact of what's going on. And to what Councillor Patterson said is, yes, we have actually changed speeds. We do that, and we look at considerations, and it'll happen if there's a case for it to happen, and you just have to believe in the process. I know that's hard sometimes, but it will be looked at very seriously, and that's why you're here today, to make us look at it very seriously. And I thank you for doing that, because I think that's part of the process of this. Okay, all right, Councillor Heeman.
Just want to last comment that I have full respect for the process as well, and I look forward to that report.
So We've got a motion that, do you want me to deal with Councillor Patterson's motion immediately? Yeah, okay. So we have a motion on the table that the speed limit be changed today without the consultation. So we have a mover and a seconder, and I'm going to call for that motion. Have Councillor Patterson, Councillor Heeman, and against. Okay, so that one's lost. And now we're moving on to that the petition to lower speed limit on Fair Road be received as information. And the report number PWTS 00122 be received as information, and that council direct staff to collect traffic volumes and speed data on Fair Road during and following the Donnybrook Drive reconstruction project. Seconder? Yeah, mover and seconder. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Duly noted. Okay,
Mayor Work, can I have a recorded vote on that, please?
sure.
Counselor Patterson,
Against.
Counselor Heeman,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Elliott,
In favor.
In favor.
Mayor Warwick. It's carried.
All right, ready to move on. So now we're moving on to the consent agenda. Items listed on your consent agenda are considered routine and may require discussion, but no action on the part of council. Consent items are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more item be removed for further action. So we have 7.1, 7.2, and all the way down to 7.9 in the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on any of these? Councillor Hunter?
Yes, your worship. I'd like to pull out 7.3 as an item there that I would like to address under item 11 of the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Elliott,
I would like to pull out 7.6, please.
7.6. And where do you want to address that? In new business or now?
We can address it in new business. I'd like to make a motion. for
Okay.
it.
So anything else? Okay. Oh, then I'm looking for a mover that consent agenda item 7.2, 7.9, with the exception of 7.3 and 7.6 be accepted for information. Councillor Heeman, seconded by Councillor Hunter, all in favor? So moved. Now, the minutes are above, and it's for September 19th, 2022 to be approved as circulated. And Councillor or Deputy Mayor Elliott moved, seconded by Councillor Hunter, all in favor? So moved. Okay, now moving on to 8.1 CAO 00622 electronic monitoring policy. That's your report, CEO Henry?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's only my report for a moment. We have Chris Bailey here from County IT, and he's going to take over from me. I'll just note that this is a Bill 88, I believe, that is downloaded to us and mandatory to have in place before October 11th, I think, Chris, and he's nodding, so I say thank you. Okay, and he's going to take over from here, Your Worship.
Whenever you're ready, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to council. Thanks to Mike just for a quick background there. This is a requirement for all employers with 25 or more employees in Ontario to have this policy in place no later than October 11th and presented to staff no later than 30 days after it is in place. Thames Centre and Middlesex County have many shared resources, including technical infrastructure. Middlesex County's policy was used when possible through consultation with Mike and Kim internally there to come up with a Thames Centre policy. Electronic monitoring is essential in ensuring compliance with policies, maintaining the security and integrity of information systems, and ensuring information technology services are safely used and appropriately used. To do this, various electronic monitoring methods for data collection are used at the municipality that are generated by the employees, contractors, and visitors. Electronic monitoring data may be used for auditing, compliance, analytics, information technology, infrastructure, security, and integrity, troubleshooting, and in certain circumstances, employee performance or disciplinary action. The proposed policy sets out the guidelines and procedures surrounding the collection and use of this information, privacy and confidentiality, as well as the retention of the records. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have. Thank you.
Any questions for Chris? No. I was listening to actually a talk show on the CBC on Sunday. They were talking this exact topic. And they were saying it's actually the people that they were consulting with say it's really good to have this policy, because if you didn't have this policy, you wouldn't even know if some of the larger companies, I'm not talking about the county, but like larger, you wouldn't even know if that was happening to you. This is actually making it so that people that are using the devices that are provided to them by different companies are aware of what is happening. And before that, they didn't have to. So it's, when you look at it that way, it sheds a new light on it. So, any comments, Chris?
Through you to council, I totally agree with that statement. I mean, it's really important to be transparent. This was something that we had to do, but it actually allowed us to evaluate the data that we're pulling in, where we're storing it, how it's accessed. So it was a good exercise from the IT side of things as well as just the governance side of the data that we're actually collecting. So I think it was a good process, and I think it's really important for employees to know what is being tracked for sure. So aside from that, thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, and you still won't be able to get me out of snowbank if I'm stuck in it, right? No, that was the discussion we had the last time we talked about this policy. All right, so mover, Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Heyman, all in favor? So moved. Moving on to 8.2, Clerk 00822, Council and Employee Policies Updates.
Good afternoon. The council policies on the agenda, they haven't been updated since 2016, and were updated at this time in preparation for the new term of council coming in, and trying to keep up with the current practices that have gone on over the last few years. The employee clothing policy was updated for clarity purposes and to keep it in line with the council policy. If council has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Any questions regarding this? So we have a motion that report number 00822 be received for information, and that the revised health benefits plan policy CB31 association memberships policy CB32 elected officials salary policy CB11 clothing allowance policy CB22 and clothing allowance policy EPD 3.5 be approved as presented. Mover Deputy Mayor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? So moved. And now 8.3, Clerk 00922 2023 Council meeting schedule.
Before you is the council meeting schedule, the proposed council meeting schedule for 2023. The dates and times presented are consistent with what we are, what the current meeting schedule is like for 2022, and in accordance with the procedural bylaw. Approving the calendar now just helps us set the dates for the first quarter of training that is expected to be set right now for the new incoming council. And it also helps staff set public meeting dates into the new year. Anything that needs to be amended by new council, they will have that opportunity, but I think it's helpful to approve it at this time.
Any questions about the dates or the report? If not, Councillor Patterson. You're muted, Councillor Patterson.
How about that?
We got you.
Okay, I'm just not sure that it's appropriate for us, this outgoing council, to set the meeting schedule for the upcoming council. I understand that it may help staff, but council runs the meetings, and I think it's appropriate that we let them decide when those councils may occur and what time.
I'm going to let the clerk answer that.
The time of the meetings is in accordance with the procedural bylaw. So unless council comes together and makes a change to that, that's the only way it can be amended. The reason for asking this now is because with the new incoming council and all the training that needs to be provided, conflict of interest training, closed meeting training. We're proposing to set dates in January, February, possibly even March or April, but we can't set those dates until we know when the days are. And I think that would benefit council. It does benefit staff greatly, but I think they will be behind if we don't set some of these dates.
I think there is freedom to change the dates when new council is elected. And I'm just, Councillor Heeman, you had your hand up?
That's what I was gonna ask, was the ability to amend them, but I think we had the opportunity to do that when we first came on council, so see that being consistent.
We even went on Valentine's Day.
That's your worship. Thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what we also look at is the number of statutory holidays that are going to come up in the 2023 year, as well as the county council schedule and its output, because we have to analyze that situation. So it's just a proactive practice. And as Councillor Heeman noted, it's always has the ability to change. Every meeting has the ability to change the next meeting in accordance with what is on the agenda.
Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, I've been on 2 terms of council and I've never experienced where the outgoing council has set the meetings for the next term of council. And my experience is if you need to change a meeting, you're at the mercy of the other 4 members of council. So it's not that easy to change a meeting.
If I may, through you, your worship, to Councillor Patterson, this is my 5th term of council, and everywhere I've been, it has always come out before the new council comes in, but there is the option to change it.
And I'll just chime in to say that, and the county too does the same thing. So it is a common practice, and just it makes it just easier for everybody to plan ahead. And if there is changes, I think everybody is fairly flexible to go ahead and change that. So if there's any more discussion, I'm going to call the vote. That report number Clerk 00922 be received for information, and that the 2023 council meeting calendar be approved as presented. Mover, Councillor Heeman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. In favor? Opposed? Duly noted. And now moving on to Clerk 01022 Records Management Policy. Reading. And thank you, Sarah. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Sorry, should I start over? Could you guys, okay. So basically, with respect to the revised records management policy, this policy governs the expectations for all staff with respect to the management of records. This policy has not been updated since 2018. So it's been amended to ensure that municipal processes are up to date. With respect to the records retention schedule, our schedule is maintained in accordance with TOMRMS, which stands for the Ontario Municipal Records Management System. This is a system that we use to assign classification codes and retention periods to every type of document. This is also updated on an annual basis to ensure consistency with current legislation and to ensure we're keeping records for as long as we're supposed to. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Council, any questions for Sarah? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, Mayor Warwick. Is there different lengths of time for different documents to retain?
Sarah, go ahead.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Sorry, Mayor Warwick. Is there different lengths of times for different records? It just I've had numerous residents call me and ask me for specific documents that they can't find online. Whether they're there or not there, or they can't find them, and they just want to, they want the records to be accessible, and they look back a year or 2 years or 6 months, and I just didn't know if there was a different timeline for accessing that.
Through your worship, you could always advise them to reach out to the clerk's department. We could always give them those records. There's some types of records that we post online, such as agenda minutes, that kind of thing. I don't know if the clerk has more thoughts on it.
Thank you. Sorry, your worship. I got jumped in here. I think Councillor Patterson, there is certain lengths of time for certain things that get held longer than others. To answer your question fully, I think that's what you're talking about. So for example, the Community Services Department would have a timeline on how long records are kept there. Versus finance would keep maybe records for a longer period of time. And certainly any incidents or legal matters would stay on for X amount of time as well. I don't know those exact parameters, but yes, there is a difference. The clerk provides us with a chart of when those can be exhausted and terminated. But they do vary in length in certain situations, yes.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, so just for example, if someone wanted the agenda for September of 2018 and the documents that are all attached to that, could they find that online?
I'm going to let our other clerk answer that question.
From 2018, I believe they could access the guest portal of the Laserfish on the website. Agendas are kept for 5 years. That's their retention life. But for 2018, they should be able to log into the website using the guest. And if they have any issues with that, they can contact the clerk's department and we're very happy to help them.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, then I'm going to ask that report number clerk 01022 be received for information and that the revised records management policy is attached to the report number clerk 01022 be adopted and replace the existing policy CPA 9.2 in the corporate section of the Thames Center policy manual and that the revised records retention schedule be adopted by bylaw. Mover, Councillor Hunter, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott. All in favor? So moved. Now moving on to, thank you, Sarah. Moving on to PWDR 1622 Chima petition, section 4 request for drainage works. And there is our drainage superintendent. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, Council. We've recently received a request for a new drainage works. The landowner is looking to develop the land. They are off of Breen Road, and they would require a sufficient outlet to discharge their stormwater to continue this development. So this is the beginning of that process. I can help answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions regarding this, Council? Nope. If not, then we have that report PWDR 1622 of the drainage superintendent dated October 3rd, 2022 concerning a request received by Indirich Chima for a request for new drainage works be received for information at the petition submitted by Mr. Chima under section 4 of the Drainage Act for new drainage works in relation to property located at concession B SRT part lot 1, 2, and 3 be received and adopted, and that Mr. Mike DeVos of Spreed Associates be appointed as the engineer to investigate and prepare the necessary drainage report. Mover, Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Hunter. All in favor? So moved. It was brief but sweet. Travis, seeing you here. Thank you. Okay, and now moving on to the mayor's report. Oh, what? Oh my gosh, sorry. And the whole reason you're here, Jared, the whole reason, and I went right by you all to just go through my mayor's report. So here we are, 8.6 PWES 00722, Thorndale Recycling Transfer Station, scope change, you're on.
Thank you, Worship. Before you, PWES 00722, Thorndale Transfer Station, scope change. We wanted to increase the level of service to the residents of Thorndale to have a transfer station up north. We've had numerous complaints that driving their leaves and brush and yard waste down to the Dorchester transfer station or landfill was just too far of a drive. Council approved this in the 2022 budget. Since then, our ECA of the Thames Center municipal land site has increased huge with requirements, whatnot. This would make this transfer station super onerous and not operationally functionable. I spoke with the the president, I guess, of Try Recycling on Clark Road, the facility, and they're more than willing to look into an agreement with us, the same as they do with Middlesex Center, to allow residents to deliver their yard waste to their site there. It works well. They're all set up for us, just the same as they do with Middlesex Center, and it sounds like it's a good relationship. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions? I'm going to start with Deputy Mayor Elliott and then Councillor Heeman.
I'll just say I'm fully supportive of this. I spoke to some members of the Horticultural Society who are very happy to have this in place. So I'm happy this is coming forward.
Councillor Heeman.
Yes, I think this is a good pivot, and it's great that we've found a creative way to provide these services. And I think for residents in Belton and Welburn in the north end of the townships, like this will save quite a bit of time. And I think the average resident in the north, it will save them half an hour. So even though it's not within the town boundary, I think that it's a great service, and it's right in the middle of the north. So
yeah,
great.
and the town boundary, it works for some things, but like I know when we have hazardous waste, the Manning Drive is good for that sort of stuff too. So I think we have to be creative like this. Any other comments, questions? All right, then I have that report number PES. Oh, you jumping the gun, are you? Okay. I just wanted to say 007, like 22 be received for information, and that council directs staff to negotiate an agreement with Try Recycling, allowing Thames Center residents to drop off yard waste and specific materials free of charge at their Clark Road facility, and that council directs staff to reallocate the 2022 approved budget amount of $65,000 from the solid waste materials and supplies account to the solid waste contract services account, and that the remaining budget be transferred to the waste management reserve and utilized to fund future annual costs related to the continuation of this agreement. And Councillor Heeman is moving this, seconded by Deputy Mayor Elliott.
I have a question, Mayor
Yep,
Work,
go ahead.
sorry. $65,000 for leaves, that's what the residents are gonna ask about. Maybe we could help them understand that.
Councillor Heeman, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so the 65,000 was for repurposing the site, and I think fencing and to deal with the paperwork. And I believe the estimated costs are closer to 20,000 for operation, which isn't that far outside the scope of what our current agreement is with Green Valley Recycling for Southern residents. So I think with what we had planned for 1 year, we'll probably get 3 years use out of.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Patterson?
Yeah, that's great. That just lets the residents know that it's not actually 65, it's less than that. Because, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so I had a mover, which was Councillor Heeman, and I thought I had a seconder, do I? Deputy Mayor Elliott, and now I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Great. And now I'm going to move on to the mayor's report. All right, so we were last together on September 19th. September 20th, I attended a virtual introduction of the Sparks program that awards a grant to businesses starting in Middlesex, and there's lots of information regarding that on the county website, which is a really good program for anybody that's starting up a business. September 21st, I chaired a Kettle Creek meeting in the morning and attended a police services board in the afternoon. September 23rd, I had a meeting with Minister McNaughton and the Middlesex London Paramedic Services to speak about pilot projects that we're proposing. Later that evening, I attended the opening of the Thorndale Fair, very well attended, and I was honored to be a judge in the Fair Ambassador contest. And the successful winner was Haley Graham. And we saw the pie auction bring in $11,000 in half an hour, probably. It was quite amazing. And September 24th, I attended the Thorndale Parade and rode with the other members of council on a carriage. September 26th, Deputy Mayor Elliott and CEO Henry were able to meet with the Minister Lecce and MPP Flack to see the progress at River Heights. And maybe I'll ask you to talk about that after a little bit. September 27th, we had the library board meeting and the Middlesex County Council meeting. September 28th, I had a Kettle Creek Environmental Trust meeting, and I was pleased to speak in the afternoon and evening session of the OFA's candidate information sessions. As I was doing this, CEO Henry kindly filled in for me at a meeting hosted by MPP Rob Flack and was with Minister Steve Clark. September 29th was the meeting of the Flight Exec Center Expansion Advisory Committee. September 30th was the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. It's the Economic Development Committee. October 1st, I attended an open house for County of Elgin's warden, Mary French, and later attended a candidates information evening in Thorndale, organized by Thorndale Youth and I Love Thorndale. And that brings us today, which is October 3rd. Don't forget the Dorchester Lions will be hosting a candidates information evening at the Flight Exec Center tonight, and the doors open at 6:30. Maybe, can I backtrack to you, Deputy Mayor Elliott, and you just quickly talk about the meeting with Minister Lecce?
Yes, thank you. And through your worship, as you mentioned, CEO Henry, as well as Alan and I met with Minister Lecce and MPP Rob Flack last week, just outside the doors here at the site for the new River Heights Daycare Center. Minister Lecce was in town to review this project. He's very excited about it. I was also able to take the opportunity to bring up a few other issues regarding the fact that Middlesex County still sits below the provincial average for daycare centers and the need for licensed daycare. Even though these 88 spots are great, there's still a massive gap in licensed daycare facilities. And so we had a great conversation of that, as well as he committed to keeping the moratorium on rural school closures in place until we can review the PAR process and ensure that rural schools are taken into consideration during that closure process. And the last thing I just want to touch on is the Belmont School, as some of our Thames Center residents will attend the new Belmont School once it opens up, when it finally opens up. But we did have a commitment from Minister Lecce for Thames Valley District School Board to work with MPP Flack in order to, when the school finally opens in the next 2 to 5 years, that it opens at the size that it requires to be and not open with 12 portables as it is projected to open when it finally does with.
Okay, thank you. And maybe for the record, I'll ask CEO Henry to fill in on his meeting that he filled in for me with Steve Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. It certainly was a good meeting, very congenial, very informative. They took a full hour to discuss some concerns that residents are having, or sorry, the communities are having throughout the county and beyond, because some Elgin County members were there as well, of course. The general consensus was a feeling that our infrastructure needs support. It needs support financially. It needs support to be installed. And a lot of communities, unlike ours, are suffering from a lack of capacity in their stormwater circumstances, or wastewater treatment plants, that kind of thing. And so we had some discussion, a lot of discussion in that regard. We had some discussion from us as a municipality in particular, where we would like to start to have a little bit more of a broader ability to manipulate the PPS and our urban boundaries. I had noted that while all the other municipalities were asking for dollars for infrastructure for larger projects, if we were able to manipulate our urbanized boundaries, we would be able to service some of the properties in and around our wastewater treatment plant quicker and at our cost immediately. I'm certainly looking for their help in the future, of course. We talked about the OLT and how the provincial government is going to throw some extra bodies into that process to expedite that. Right now, they are 8 months to 12 months trying to get things rectified. And as our own Director of Planning and Development will note, that they have not even acknowledged one circumstance that was filed with them this summer. So they are really behind, but they've made a commitment to make that happen. Former Warden Kathy Burkhart-Jessen was on hand as well, and she was voicing her concerns over the holdup that the province has put on the official plan for them, and then we couldn't get obviously ours passed at that time, and a few others in the county as well. So having said that, there seemed to be a commitment to get that rectified in the next couple of months, which I thought was nice to hear and optimistic, and hopefully that would be the case.
Thank you, and I appreciate you being able to fill in for me. Now, the unfinished business, seeing none, notice of motion. So Paul, or Councillor Hunter, I should say, whenever you're ready, if you want to speak to your notice of motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. This comes from the Sports Wall of Fame meeting that we had last week. We had a member make an inquiry to see if we could have Boone Jenner's name added to the Thames Center welcome signs as we come in to the village. And it just as a dominant hockey player that grew up here and started his hockey career here in Dorchester, that this would be a fitting touch to have this on our signs.
Okay, so I just want to clarify with Tina, we vote to talk about this, or we can just start talking about it?
For it to be considered today to vote on it, you need to make a motion that the notice of motion be considered without previous notice. You need a 2/3 vote on that, and then you can go ahead and vote on it.
Okay.
I would make that a motion.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Heeman. And all in favor? To speak to the motion? Okay, opposed? Okay, one, so that motion carries. Go ahead, Paul, and speak to the motion.
Yes, this has been brought forward by Jim Maudsley, who is a member of the Sports Hall of Fame Committee, and I think the Dorchester Minor Hockey Association has brought this forward in the past. And I would be prepared to make a motion to ask staff to bring back a report to see the feasibility of having this done.
Any other comments? No, Councillor Patterson, go ahead.
I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm just not in favor of sort of hamstringing our next council that's gonna come in effect in November. So I'd rather them make the decision, and that's why I oppose the making a decision today. I think November, December, they can easily make that decision.
And other comments? Deputy Mayor Elliott first, and then Councillor Heeman.
Just procedurally, if you need a seconder to open it up for discussion, I'd be happy to second it.
Ron.
Okay, I absolutely support this. I know it's something that was brought up to me pre-COVID, and I think just with the pandemic and everything happening was just one of those things that got put on the back burner. So I'm happy that you brought this forward, Councillor Hunter. And I'm just again, as Councillor Patterson said, I don't want to hamstring the next council, but I think just having a staff report come with different options that are available, as well as costs for them to consider, doesn't really hamstring them or put them in any sort of precarious situation. I'm just wondering, as part of that staff report, and maybe through your worship, my question would be to Director McDonald, that it would look at various options for signage, because I know when we talked before, it was maybe not the welcome signs, but maybe a sign at the arena or something specific to that. So would the report include different options available?
Councillor Heeman.
Yeah, I just want to note it's important to support the work of the committees, and I think that this is a good step as a new council will have new committee members, and due to COVID, there wasn't the same amount of opportunities for the Sports Wall of Fame committee to have their celebrations, and I think it's good that we can at least keep the ball rolling, although new council ultimately will have the final say.
So can you repeat Paul's motion for clarification?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I just wanted to be clear on what he was asking for.
And that, me too.
Okay, I will do my best. Correct me if I'm missing something. That Boone Jenner's name be added to the TC welcome sign upon entering the village, and that staff be directed to bring back report to new council regarding the feasibility, options, cost for this sign.
Perhaps not only the welcome signs, it could be options for whether it be on the sign coming into the arena or in the arena. It's like all the options are out there.
To Thames Center signs and leave it open instead of the TC welcome sign.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest to kind of clean that up. reverse the order of those two sentences so that it's not that it just gets added, that a feasibility study to look at it being added. And that would just clean it up and make it clearer on what's being asked.
So in the spirit of being clear, we're going to repeat what we just went through and then everybody can hear it. Don't rush, Tina, just take your time and get it the way you want it.
Mayor Warwick?
Yep, Chris,
Can
we're
we
just waiting. We're just waiting for, Tina's just rewriting it to her satisfaction.
Can't we just ask direct staff to investigate and determine the cost of installing a home of Boone Jenner sign?
I believe, basically, I think that's what she's doing. She's just
Yeah.
rewriting it so that she's going to repeat it for all of us and then we'll go from there. So it'd just be a second longer and then we'll go. See, Paul, this is what notices of motion bring.
Yeah, second attempt here. That staff be directed to prepare a feasibility study to bring forward to new council as per the options of cost, placement for the Boone Jenner. Recognition, Boone Jenner recognition. To be added to Thames Center's signs.
All right. Good, Paul? Good. Okay. Good with everybody else? We've got a mover and a seconder, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's call the vote. In favor? Wow, that took a long time for something we all agreed on. All right, new business?
Thank you. And through your worship, I pulled out, I believe now it was 7.6, the Township of Lucan Biddulph support resolution, Strong Mayors Building Homes Act. I would just like to, with council support, support the resolution of the Township of Lucan Biddulph, who are supporting the town of Kingsville and the town of Osaga Beach, to share their concerns with Bill 3, the Strong Mayors Bill that was passed. I know last week at Good Roads, we had a report come to us with the concerns that Good Roads has with this bill, as well as AMO has published their concerns that they were never consulted on this bill. And so for those that are not aware of Bill 3, it is the Strong Mayors Bill. It was passed by and received royal assent by the province of Ontario that gives mayors right now in the city of Toronto and the city of Ottawa, although Premier Ford and Minister Clerk have both alluded that following the municipal election, they would look to expand these powers to mayors outside of these two areas. But it would give them powers to hire, fire, CAO, municipal department heads, and create and reorganize departments without the approval of council, appoint chairs and vice chairs for committees, local boards, and establish committees, bring matters for council consideration related to provincial priorities, veto bylaws approved by council if they relate to matters of provincial priority, and also to propose the municipal budget all without council. And so it goes against all democratic legislation and abilities that we have as council. And so I would like to put a motion on the floor that we support the township. We support this as well with the township of Luke and Biddulph.
I would second that, Mayor Warwick.
Okay, got a seconder? Any discussion? Councillor Heeman?
I'd like to think as counselors that we add value to the process. Yeah, I think when we were first trained that we have a weak mayor system, and I don't think that in any way reflects on the chair. I think that's part of our tradition of the Westminster-based democracy, and I think that it works well, and we have definitely found a way to work within that framework and provide value to our constituents.
Deputy Mayor Elliott?
Sorry, and I just want to clarify, and it'll be a friendly amendment with Councillor Patterson that this motion be directed to the Honorable Steve Clerk, Rob Flacker, MPP, AMO, and all Ontario municipalities as well. So the word gets around.
Good with that, Chris?
I would agree with that.
Okay, all right. So mover, seconder, calling the vote. All in favor? So moved. Now moving on to bylaws. We have bylaw 8422 to 92 2022 be adopted as presented. Is there any discussion on any of those bylaws as listed? No, if not, I'll ask for a mover. Councillor Hunter, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favor? So moved. That brings us next to our meeting schedule, and our next meeting will be the inaugural meeting, Wednesday, November. I was going to say, that's my birthday. How could you do that? November 16th at 11 a.m., which means this is our last council meeting together. At this time, I would like to thank council and staff for their hard work and leadership over the past 4 years. 2 years of lockdown and changing restrictions certainly will never be forgotten. The world has changed dramatically since 2018. If there was any doubt that social media would play a large role going forward with municipal meetings, it's been proved that it will be forever a part of our lives. There are still resounding repercussions of the frustrations and isolation caused by the pandemic. I believe that the upcoming council will continue to repair and improve services to get us past the damage, both mentally and physical damage that the pandemic caused. I believe we'll in 10 years reflect on the changes that occurred over the last few years. We'll be much more prepared for any emergency now, and the record will show that we did remarkably well. My best wishes to staff and our present and future council. All the best. So now we are looking for a motion, our favorite motion to adjourn.
Yep. Sorry, Your Worship. Before we do a motion to adjourn, I think I would just like to take the opportunity on behalf of staff and council to thank you for your leadership over the past 4 years. Your unsteady leadership as we talk about through the pandemic. I don't think when you were elected in 2018, you would think you would have led all of these emergency meetings of a global pandemic through the municipality of Thames Centre. But you have been unwavering support for the residents, staff, and leadership to council. And so I would like to thank you for everything you've done over the last 4 years.
Thank you. And I take it that's a motion to adjourn as well. Yep. And a seconder. Councillor Hunter, all in favor? So moved.